What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here, and we are going to get going for today. Today is all about, you're doing something and it's not working. Like, why is this thing not working? Whether it's any type of marketing tactic, anything that you're doing, what's going to naturally happen is you'll do it, then you'll realize it's not working. So what's up with that? And let's get into this whole thing. For the longest time, like when I started out doing cold emailing, I started out with cold calling actually, and it didn't work. You always hear about how cold calling or just whatever works, but for some reason it wasn't working for me. And so I'm like, what the hell, right? So you naturally get frustrated. You get frustrated when things aren't working, whether you're building your personal brand, whether you're trying to get on stages, you're doing all your marketing, you're doing this tactic or technique that a guru told you to do, and it's not working. So that's what I want to talk about today. Naturally, what's going to happen is you're going to keep asking yourself, like, what am I doing wrong? And when you're doing something, it's going to create a lot of self-doubt when you feel like this thing isn't working for you. You feel like it's working for other people, but it's not working for you. And I've talked with several people in pretty much every industry: real estate, insurance, speakers, coaches, consultants, people building a personal brand, fitness gurus, whoever. I've talked with several people, and they always hear about a marketing tactic. Let's say webinars or sales videos. They always hear about some type of tactic, and then they start trying it. But then they realize, hey, why is this not working? Hey, good morning, Instagram. They wonder, like, why is this thing not working, right? And so in my case, what happened was I'm trying to get hired as an entertainer. Like way back in the day, just trying to get hired as an entertainer. I wasn't even trying to do speaking just yet, but I was trying to get hired as an entertainer. And one of my friends, he would cold call, and it worked for him. And I'm like, okay, cold call. Maybe I should try a thing. Like, he's literally calling people out of the phone book, getting booked on stages. And so I figured, all right, it works. So let me try this thing. So I started doing some cold calling, right? I write down my script. I'm like, all right, I got the most brilliant script in the world. So I'm trying to call, bam, bam, bam. And I'm calling, but it's not working. Nobody's really interested. People are expressing some type of interest, like, yeah, send us your promo packet. Like back in the day, that was when you could send promo packets. So there was like some sort of interest, like a small interest. So I'm sending it out. After a while, nobody would hire me. Like, nobody's hiring me, right? I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I switched from cold calling to cold emailing. And so I started cold emailing. And once again, same thing was happening, but in my mind, I was like, okay, one of these things have to work. Cold calling, cold email, like one of these things, it has to work. And eventually I figured out in terms of the cold emailing, in terms of getting that to actually work. But what naturally happens is when something doesn't work, there's a lot of self-doubt that goes on inside of your brain. So you're sitting there, you're cold emailing, cold calling, doing a webinar, creating a sales video, building an email list, whatever it is you're doing, Facebook ad, Google ads. When you're doing something and you realize, like, hey, this thing isn't working, what happens inside of your brain is it creates self-doubt. And then the self-doubt leads to shiny object syndrome. And in my case, in the beginning, it was cold calling. So I'm calling. I'm like, all right, this thing isn't working. So I had the self-doubt. Then my shiny object syndrome was cold emailing. Luckily, my shiny object syndrome led to the specific thing that actually worked. And so with most people, they have the shiny object syndrome, and then they do something that doesn't work for what they're trying to accomplish. So it's, for example, like, speakers are a perfect example, right? So you're speaking, or you're trying to do cold email, cold calling to actually get on a stage, and you're doing it. It's not working. You're like, why aren't people really responding? Why aren't they hiring me? And then all of a sudden you hear about creating a podcast. You're like, all right, you know what? Instead of this cold email stuff, let me just create a podcast. And then you start doing a podcast, right? And so it leads to this shiny object syndrome. And when that happens, you're pretty much screwed at that point. The shiny object syndrome is the downfall of many, many entrepreneurs. You're trying to build something, and in order to build any type of business, in order to accomplish anything, not even build a business, to accomplish anything, if you want to freaking lose weight, just get more fit, you have to actually be focused. Like, you literally got to be focused, have an insane amount of self-discipline and insane, like, laser type focus. And so if you have the shiny object syndrome, it's literally going to lead to your downfall. And so you just have to understand that. By the way, I'm trying to get this live going so I can see comments and stuff, but this thing isn't popping up on here. This iPad is like useless nowadays. I can't see any comments anymore on this thing. All right, so let's just do that. All right, so But yeah, so what it leads to ultimately is self-doubt. You do something, it's not working, self-doubt, and then self-doubt leads to shiny object syndrome. And shiny object syndrome, it just repeats over and over and over again. I want you to understand that everything that I did from the very get-go when I was trying to market myself, everything, literally from getting hired as an entertainer, getting hired as a speaker, to building an online business, all of it, everything I did didn't work in the beginning. Every single thing. Facebook ads, Google ads, cold email, cold calling, webinars, sales videos, product launches, everything. Writing emails, sending emails out to generate sales. None of it worked in the beginning. And what happens is the self-doubt creeps in, then shiny object, and you switch to something else. I want to warn you to not switch to something else. If you know that this thing works, so if you know cold emailing works or Google ads works, if you know the thing works, you have to get it to work. And what's going to happen is as you're building your business, as you're trying to grow, you're going to feel like you're running 100 miles per hour, like freaking 100 miles per hour, but you're not getting anywhere. That's what's going to naturally happen. You're going to do all sorts of things, whether it's you're doing cold email, whether you're creating content, podcasts, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. You're going to be doing all these things, and you're going to be doing it for at least a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. And you're going to be like, why? What the hell's going on? Why am I not where I thought I should be? You're going to feel like you're running in circles, and that is natural. You have to understand that business is a skill. Understand that. Get it through your head that business is a skill. I mean, the same way chess is a skill, boxing is a skill, freaking engineering is a skill, computer engineering is a skill, poker's a skill. All of it, it's a skill. And you building your business, you doing your marketing is a skill. We understand that in order to be a computer engineer, you will not learn it in 1 year. You will not be a computer engineer in 1 year. I mean, if you can go from not knowing anything about it to learning it and like Google status within a year, you're pretty damn smart. You're probably smarter than Einstein. You're not as smart as me, but you're probably smarter than Einstein, right? If you can learn it that fast, we get it with something like a computer engineer. They can't learn it in a year. But for some reason, when we're building a business, when we're doing cold email and cold call and creating content, whenever we're doing that and it doesn't work and we're working on it for a year and it's not working for us, we're like, what's up with this? Why is it not really working the way I thought? It's because it's a skill. All of it is a skill. Cold calling, cold emailing, creating videos, creating a podcast. It's all a skill, and it takes time to build that skill. You have to understand that a lack of knowledge is basically a lack of knowledge means you're not sure how long something is going to take to accomplish it, right? So when you don't know about something, you don't know how long it's going to take to get that something to work. But what happens is in our brain, we're just naturally, the instant gratification, all that sort of stuff is happening inside of our brain. And so we don't think it's going to take that long. Whether it's marketing, whatever it is, we don't think it's going to take that long, which is why we tend to give up a lot faster than what we should. So this is what I talked about a while ago where I said, if you know you're running a marathon, you're not going to quit after you run 2 miles. You just won't, because you know a marathon is 26 miles. So after 2 miles, you're going to say, all right, got freaking 24 miles to go, right? So you know that. But if you believe that you only have to run 1 mile, or if you have to run 2 miles, if you think you only got to run that limited amount, what's going to happen is after you reach that amount, you're going to start to have self-doubt. You're going to say, after you hit a mile, you're like, all right, where's the finish line? You're going to have a little bit of self-doubt. Then you go a little bit further. And once again, self-doubt is going to creep in. Once you get to 3 miles, 4 miles, if you go that long, you're going to be like, all that self-doubt is going to creep in. Then the shiny object syndrome will pop up. Like you'll stop and say, well, what am I doing wrong? Why do I not see the finish line? Should I go this way or should I go that way? And that's what literally happens in real life, like in business, right? So what you have to do is you have to get information about what you're trying to accomplish. If you're a speaker trying to get on stages, whether you're building a personal brand, trying to sell online programs, you have to get information about this knowledge, because what that does, it allows you to anticipate what's about to happen. It allows you to see into the future in terms of here's how long it's going to take. Here's all the things I got to do to get done. So it allows you to anticipate what's about to happen. And when you can anticipate, I mean, you just won't give up as soon, right? So imagine, like, how long does it take to be a doctor? Like, literally, I don't know, people right now who are watching this who aren't doctors, how long does it take to be a doctor? Well, it's going to take 10 years. 10 years, maybe longer, maybe 9 years or something, but it's going to be about that long. Because it'd take that long, you won't stop after a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. You won't even stop after 6 years. You'll be like, I get it that it takes 10 years to accomplish this thing. And so if you don't know what to anticipate, if you don't know what to expect, then you will create false expectations. And that is why you will say this thing doesn't work. Cold calling doesn't work. Cold emailing doesn't work. Webinars doesn't work. Facebook ads doesn't work. Google ads doesn't work. You will keep saying that because you don't understand how long it takes to get the thing to work. And you don't understand how skilled you need to be to get it to work. So really, really think about how business is literally a skill. Everything takes time. Marketing, your marketing skills, hiring, video presentation, like you're creating videos, like learning how to present in a video, podcast, all this stuff. It takes time. You have to get that through your head if you really want to just grow in general. One of the things that I've always thought about is just patience in general, right? So a long time ago, a friend of mine, he was like, patience is a birth defect. And I thought that was pretty funny. That was actually something that I used to tell people all the time after I heard it from him. And technically, you want to be patient with the results and impatient with the level of activity you engage in to accomplish those results. You have to operate in a dual reality. It is not be patient or impatient. It is be patient and impatient. That's how you need to operate in everything you do. It's literally, I'm going to be patient in terms of the results that I'm going to get, but I'm going to be impatient in terms of the level of activity that I engage in. There's the whole tortoise and the hare. Like you guys have heard the tortoise and the hare story, right? You have to understand that in reality, the hare does not lose. The rabbit will never lose to a turtle. Absolutely never. That is just a story that everyone likes to talk about. Oh, slow and patience and all that stuff. It'll get you there. No. In reality, the rabbit will whoop the turtle's ass in a race. And so you have to be the turtle, not the rabbit. This isn't some freaking fantasy land. You want to be the turtle. You have to speed up with the level of activities that you engage in order for you to actually build the skill. Remember, marketing business, it's all a skill. And so if you're sitting there wondering, why is this thing not working? It's because you haven't built the skill yet. You haven't built it at all. And so when you go faster, you can actually do more. You'll naturally get more done. You'll have more hours that you're putting into the practice. And then bam, before you know it, you'll be a master at that thing. This is why I keep telling people that you have to have that go, go, go attitude, the sense of urgency in everything that you're doing. A sense of urgency will allow you to get more done than everybody you know. When, and by the way, in terms of sense of urgency, it can be real or it can just be fake. And what I mean by that is it can be a real sense of urgency, like let's say Facebook ads, right? So Facebook ads, nowadays, it's getting a little bit more and more expensive. Eventually, it's going to get way more expensive, just like how Google ads did. Google ads at first started really cheap. Now it's way expensive as all hell. So Facebook ads is going to do the same thing. And so you need to create that sense of urgency inside of your brain. Like, okay, if you're going to do Facebook ads, you're like, okay, I got to hurry up and get this done in 2019. I got to hurry up with these Facebook ads because by the end of the year, it's going to be like freaking $5 a click. It's going to be something ridiculous. And so you want to create this sense of urgency inside of you for you to go, 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 go. And by doing that, you'll naturally go from why isn't this working and you just figuring it out because you're always in go, 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 go mode, right? And so you always want to create that sense of urgency inside of everything that you're doing. And so this is one of the reasons why extremely successful people get frustrated with damn near everybody. The reason is because people move too slow. And so when someone says like, this isn't working or it's not working for me or whatever, it's because an extremely successful person has this go, go, go state of mind, this sense of urgency. And when people aren't doing things, super successful people will naturally get frustrated because remember, they're the tortoise. I mean, they're the hare, they're the rabbit. and they feel like everybody else is a tortoise. They're like, dude, hurry up, man. Come on now. And so they get pissed off that people are going so slow. And so you have to just think the faster you go, the more you can do, the more hours you put in for practice, and the more practice you put in, the better you're going to get at it. Years ago, when I was just trying to market myself, I'm trying different ways. I finally got cold emailing to work. So remember in the beginning, I did cold calling. I did the same thing as everybody else. I had the self-doubt because I'm like, this thing isn't working. Freaking I changed my script like a million times. I'm reading all these cold calling books, watching all these videos. This cold calling stuff doesn't work in my industry, right? So I did the same thing as everybody else. And then I figured like, you know what? Let me switch to cold emailing. I had the self-doubt. Then the shiny object syndrome caused me to switch to cold emailing. Luckily, back then, there wasn't all this talk about create content, produce a podcast, and all, there wasn't all this talk about that stuff. So luckily, I switched to the right thing. Cold calling still worked. Luckily, my shiny object syndrome led me to the right thing anyways. Whereas nowadays, the shiny object syndrome is going to lead you to a million different options, and most of them probably won't work. And so you want to sit there and think along the lines of the faster you can go, the more at bats you have, which means the more home runs you're going to be able to hit. So it's not about sitting there just going really slow. You're sitting there going really fast, thinking in terms of how do I get more at bats, more practice to master this thing that I'm trying to master? Because I'm telling you that no matter what it is you try to do, whether you're trying to create a webinar, do cold emailing, podcast, like number one podcast, whatever it is you're trying to do, there's more skill involved in it than you think. And because of that, you have to learn the skill. You have to learn the details of that skill. It's one of the reasons why I don't mind telling people so much about cold emailing, because I know there are so many small details of cold emailing that unless they're in my program, they just won't know those details. And unless they actually do it, like literally the way I did it in terms of like sending a minimum of 100 a day, then they won't actually learn it fast enough. And so you have to understand that you have to have more at bats in order to hit that home run. If things aren't working for you, it's literally because you're not skilled enough. And this is why I keep telling people you have to learn to ignore. And what I mean by that is you have to essentially learn to ignore everything that happened. Learn to ignore your past, literally. So you learn to ignore your previous accomplishments, your previous failures, your previous everything, your previous level of activity, your everything that happened, you ignore it. Doesn't matter, good, bad, doesn't matter. You just ignore it because it doesn't matter. So remember what I said, patience, in terms of you want to be patient with the result, but impatient with your level of activity. In order to be patient with the results, you have to ignore all the things that you did. Because remember, you planted seeds. You're like, all right, I'm planting seeds. All your level of activity is you're just planting seeds. And once you plant those seeds, it's like, okay, they're planted. I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to keep planting over here, right? And so you're just focusing on the level of activity that you're engaging in. And then because you're ignoring it, before you know it, this stuff is just growing. And you're like, oh, wow, cool. I got a tree, right? And so what you're really doing is you're ignoring past everything, past accomplishments, past failures, past level of activity. You're ignoring all that stuff and you're focusing on the future activity, the future level of activity that you're engaging in, the future stuff that you're actually doing. That's what you need to do. The reason why things aren't working for you is because you're focusing on the wrong things. A lot of people tend to focus on all the things that are going wrong, failures, all that sort of stuff. You literally have to get to a point where you ignore it. And I almost don't even want to say ignore it. I almost want to say damn near forget it. When people ask me little things like what are some failures that you've had? It is literally hard for me to remember the failures because it's been so many and because I literally ignore them. They damn near don't exist to me anymore. And so when I fail in something, it's literally the same as if I just woke up and I had change in my pocket and I just took a change out and I just dumped it on the floor, right? It's like I didn't like look to see how much change I had or nothing. I didn't think about it. I'm just like, whatever. I don't think about it in any way throughout my day. I'm just like, all right, here's some change, whatever. Just drop it on the floor. Whatever. I don't think about it at all. There's no attention towards it. The same goes with any failures, anything that happens in the past, failures, successes, all of it. There's no attention towards it. And so by doing that, it allows me to focus on what I need to focus on to actually get things done. And so that's how you really want to think in terms of if things aren't working for you, it's almost always because you're not skilled enough to get it to work. And then on top of that, if you focus on the wrong things, you're going to create a lot of self-doubt inside of you. If you keep focusing on it's not working, instead of how do I get it to work? How do I get it to work? How do I get it to work? If you keep focusing on why it's not working, you will naturally have self-doubt. It will lead to your shiny object syndrome and you will switch to something else. Now, let's see. Said, love the view too. Cool. Thanks. But yeah, so that's essentially what's going to naturally happen. And I tell everyone this with cold email, and I say, here's what's going to happen to you when you initially join the program or when you initially do cold email. Here's what's going to happen to you mentally. In the beginning, you're going to get excited. You're going to be like, yes, I got to send emails. Yes, I'm going to send some emails and man, I'm going to crush this thing. I'm going to make so much money. It's going to be ridiculous. And so you're all excited, right? Then you start doing it. You start emailing. All right, let me email. And then you don't get any replies. Nobody's replying. And so you start emailing again. Maybe you're like, all right, I got to push a little bit more. Let me email some again, right? So you start emailing again. And then all of a sudden, no replies, no money's coming in. You're like, And so naturally, self-doubt creeps in because once again, you're not skilled enough to get cold emailing to work. Self-doubt creeps in. And so you're like, does cold emailing work? I mean, I know he says it works, but does it really work? And self-doubt starts to creep in. So instead of sending a ton of emails a day, you decrease that amount to, instead of 50 a day or 100 a day, you decrease it to 10 a day or 5 a day, right? So you're like, now it really doesn't work because you're not practicing enough. Remember, your hours of practice went from 10 hours a day to freaking 30 minutes a day. And so naturally, you won't get skilled at something because you're not practicing enough. Then all that self-doubt's creeping in. At that point, you're like, all right, this stuff doesn't work. And now shiny object syndrome creeps in. You're like, all right, you know what? Let me create a podcast instead. Maybe I'll just create a podcast. Everyone says that works. And let me create a podcast instead. Let me write a book. Let me become an author. And let me do that instead. And so shiny object creeps in and you switch. And now once again, you're switching to something, but you have to understand that even if you switch, it's still a skill. Everything comes down to a skill. Like no matter what. Let's see. Lisa said, that's right. Fail fast and pivot. It's my new motto. All right, let's see. Sherry said, it took me too long to pivot last year when I got 0 responses. I didn't realize you have to have work on the back end of emails because people will block you. Silliness. All right, so yeah, basically when things aren't working, you have to take 100% responsibility for why it's not working. Literally 100. Everything is your fault. Every single thing is your fault. So take 100% responsibility for it. When people say like, people ask me like, how long will it take for your program to work? When people say that to me, I'm like, why are you putting the responsibility on me? In reality, you should be asking yourself, how many hours a day are you going to actually work? Like, what do you mean? How long is it going to take my program to work? I don't know. How long are you going to actually work? Are you going to wake up and do the work? Or are you going to wake up and watch some Netflix and not do a damn thing throughout the day? People like that don't take responsibility for their lives, which is why they don't have the life that they want, because they refuse to take responsibility. They put responsibility on a program. They put responsibility on a coach, mentor, whatever it is. And when things don't work, they're like, oh, that thing didn't work. That person, that coach, mentor didn't work. In reality, they didn't do the work. You have to have 100% responsibility on everything that you do. If something isn't working, it's literally because you aren't doing it right. That's literally why. Literally. Even direct mail, right? So nowadays, I wouldn't tell anybody to do direct mail. I'd be like, no, there are better, more effective ways. But if I do direct mail and it doesn't work, it's not that direct mail doesn't work, it's that I couldn't get it to work. I know direct mail works because that's how my credit card companies got me as a customer, right? They keep sending you guys, me, everybody, freaking mail inside the mail. They keep sending this stuff. And then eventually, because they send a lot, you're like, you know what? One day something changes. You're like, you know what? Let me just get a credit card anyways. And you sign up for a credit card. That's what happened to me for years, probably decades, to be honest. Actually, I haven't had a credit card since college. So I had a credit card in college. It was an American Express card. They gave me an unlimited one. It's like a dummy. I just bought a gang load of stuff. I'm like, shoot, it's unlimited, right? So I just bought a gang load of stuff. And then after that, I was like, oh man, I got to pay this back. What? And so after that, after that, I just got rid of credit cards. And then maybe last year was when I started credit cards again. But throughout the entire time since college, graduated 2009, all the way to 2018, I didn't have a credit card. And then finally, like towards the beginning of 2018, I got a credit card because they kept direct mailing me. They kept sending it in the mail. I'm like, oh, no, not getting a credit card. No, not getting a credit card. No, not getting a credit card. Then I'm thinking along the lines of maybe I should build my credit a little bit. So now one day, all right, sure, let me sign up, right? So that's what happened. So I would tell people, hey, direct mail, it doesn't work. But in reality, it's that I couldn't get it to work. Direct mail does work. Webinars do work. Facebook ads does work. Google ads, all that stuff, it works. If it doesn't work, take 100% responsibility for it because you are the one who can fix it. That's what responsibility does to you. When you take responsibility for something, it's just a matter of, even if it's technically not your fault, right? Let's say a freaking hurricane. It's technically not your fault. You should take responsibility for it and say like, man, I should have prepared. I mean, I know I live in Florida and we have hurricanes all the time. I should have prepared for it. I should have had a plan in place for what to do when there's a hurricane. I could have another spot in LA and all of a sudden I fly out there and I work out there when there's a hurricane in Florida, right? So you take responsibility for everything because it allows you to actually change things. It allows you to do something. Right. And so all you really have to do is you have to ask yourself, does this thing actually work? Right. So I'm trying to think of something that doesn't work, like some marketing. All right. So actually, no, perfect example. Facebook ads, it does not work if you are a keynote speaker and you want to get paid gigs. It does not work for that thing. Facebook ads works to build an email list, but it does not work if you want to get hired as a motivational speaker or keynote speaker, right? So it doesn't work with that. So what you do is you simply say, does this thing work for what I'm selling? You need to ask yourself that question. Like not, does it work for me or did I get it to work? Not that. Just say, does this thing work? If the answer is yes, then it's a matter of how skilled can you get to get it to work. If the answer is no, like Facebook ads for keynote speakers, the answer is no, then obviously you don't do it. It's like, well, Facebook ads doesn't work. Let me just not do it. On the other hand, if you say I'm a keynote speaker, let me do cold emailing. Does cold emailing work? Like, can you actually get business as a keynote speaker through cold emailing? The answer is 100% yes. And because of that, now it just comes down to, are you going to get it to work? Like, how long is it going to take you to get it to work? What you really have to do all the time is you have to live in a dual reality. And this is what I was talking about with the patience and impatience type thing. You live in two realities at the same time. So it's like the 100% responsibility. You take responsibility for everything. At the same time, you also know that it's not your fault. So what I mean by that is, let's say someone's opinion of you, right? So anyone's opinion of you. So what happens is you take 100% responsibility for that opinion, and then at the same time you also understand that, hey, it's all about them, that they have this judgment of you, this opinion of you because of, I don't know, something that happened in their past or whatever. So you're living in a dual reality. Same goes with patience. It's like, I'm going to be patient with the result, but impatient with the level of activity I engage in. So it's not that you do either or, it's that you do both at the same time. It's the yin yang type thing. It's not either or, it's both. And you live in this reality. The purpose is to simply operate from the standpoint of what thought produces what action. And so when you need to think this is 100% my fault, 100% responsibility, when you think that way, that thought allows you to take specific actions towards that thing. If you don't think that way, then what's going to happen is you just won't do anything to fix it. You'll be like, oh man, I mean, cold email doesn't work, and man, doesn't work. And then all of a sudden you don't try to get good at it. And so that's why you have to live in a dual reality type of situation. So all you really have to do is think along the lines just think along the lines of the dual reality part. But the question I wrote down here, I said, when do you know it's not working versus when it needs time? And I was like, good question, right? So like, when do you know that this thing is not working versus it just needs more time to get it to work? And honestly, there's no real answer to this. Like literally, there's no answer to this. I remember that story, the 3 feet from gold story, where it's like the guy, he's digging, and then all of a sudden he gives up, right? He's like, like he's trying to look for gold, and he's like digging, and then he's like, whatever, right? I can't find any. But little did he know, he was only 3 feet from gold. So if he would have just digged a little bit more, he would have found the gold. This sounds great as a story. Yeah, be persistent. When you're ready to give up, just keep going. It sounds great as a story. In reality, there's no possible way to know whether or not you should give up or keep going. There's literally no way. Like that guy, he could have kept digging. He was always digging, right? Kept digging, and then he just didn't find anything. And so there's just no way he could have known that if he just dug for 3 feet, then he would have found gold. There's no way to possibly know that. The same goes with your business. You're sitting there, you're doing something, cold emailing, cold calling, podcast or whatever. You're doing it and it's not working. There's no way to know, hey, does this thing just not work? Or can I just not get it to work? There's no real way to know. The only real way to know is when you do have that mentor, the coach, the program who literally says, this works, this doesn't work. This works, this doesn't work. Right? So it's like when I see speakers and they say, should I do Facebook ads? I say, hell no, absolutely not. Because I know it doesn't work. On the other hand, if they say, should I do Google ads? I'm like, of course. Yeah, definitely do Google ads. Right. And so if let's say you don't have a mentor, a coach, program, whatever, you don't have it and you're doing Facebook ads, you're a speaker, you're doing Facebook ads and you spend $100, $200, $500, it's not working. You're like, what the heck, right? You're trying to change your ad. You're looking up all this stuff about how to do Facebook ads, changing targeting, all that stuff. You're like, dang it, what the hell? It's not working, right? You don't know if you should give up or if it's just not working because you can't get it to work. You don't really know that. On the other hand, if someone like me comes in and says like, dude, of course it's not working because you're doing the wrong things. Of course, that thing's just not going to work, right? And so there's really no way to know. That whole 3 feet from gold story sounds great as a story, sounds great to talk about persistence, but in reality, there is no way to know if what you're doing is wrong or if you're just not doing enough of it. There's literally no way without having someone who can actually anticipate and actually see all that stuff. And you just want to understand that a lot of times when things aren't working, most of the times it does work. It's just you're not giving it enough time to work, which is why I talked about you want to be patient with the results, impatient with your level of activity, and then ignore the stuff that you did in the past, right? Because it's just a matter of it works. You're just not giving it enough time to actually work. Remember this. Everything in business is a skill. You understand that to be a doctor, it will take you 10 years. You understand that to be great at chess, it will take you years. You understand that to be great at poker, it's going to take you years. You understand to be great at computer engineering, it will take you years. But for some reason, when it comes to business, people expect it to work in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Hell, even a year. And they're like, why is this not working? It's because you're not skilled enough. You need to get help to actually get skilled. You need help to get skilled. I can't stress that enough. I always tell people this. You're going to succeed or fail with or without someone's help. If you are insanely ambitious, like you are freaking go, sense of urgency, like freaking Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, they've got nothing on you in terms of ambition, right? If you're that type of person, you will succeed whether you buy a program, get a mentor, read books, you will succeed no matter what. The only difference is how long it's going to take you. It will take you 10 years to succeed if you go at it alone, or it will take you a year, 2 years if you get help. The same goes with failure. You will fail with or without help. You can buy all the programs in the world. You can get the best coach, consultant, freaking Jeff Bezos himself, richest dude on the planet right now, or at least that's what Forbes says, right? Richest dude ever. He can literally guide you. But if you are the type of person who's just lazy in general, doesn't do the work, you will fail despite having all the resources you need to succeed. So you will fail or succeed despite having someone there. You just need to understand that it's just going to take you time. How long is it going to take you? And so if things aren't working, understand it is 100% your fault. Understand whether or not this thing actually works. Like, does this thing actually work to begin with? If it does work and it's not working for you, it's because it's your fault, which means you have the ability to change it. So just keep that in mind, which is always why I keep saying just go, go, go. Always at that go, go, go attitude. All right. So let's see if there are any other questions. Let's see. So we got that. Let's see. Rich said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Yeah, that's one of the things in terms of the insanity thing, the doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. That's one of the things where it just reminds me of the 3 feet from gold thing, where sure, you can do things over and over again, but it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like you're doing it over and over again, but do you know to stop, or is it just because you're not skilled enough? And then on top of that, how long does it take to get skilled at it? Which is why when people tell me cold emailing doesn't work, I just laugh. I'm like, dude, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, literally, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Reaching out to people always works. Always works. Literally every single time. Whether you cold email, cold call, send a freaking Instagram message, Facebook message, it works to reach out to people. The only reason it doesn't is because you didn't get it to work. And so it's really hard to know, does this thing not work, or am I just not skilled enough to get it to work? If you're not skilled enough, you have to keep doing it over and over and over again in order to get it to work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter if you do it over and over again, because it will never work out for you. So that's the problem. And once again, you don't know which one it is. There's no way to know. Absolutely no way to know which one it is, which is why you get the mentor, the program, and all that, and it tells you which one it is, right? So let's see. Paul said, in chess, the stronger you become, the more you realize you're not as strong as you think you are. Personal quest. Yes, that reminds me of that saying, like the older you get, the more you realize, like the older you get, the dumber you get, or something like that. Or I don't think it's literally that, but basically the older you get, the more you realize you didn't know everything, or something like that. You know, when you're younger, you think you know everything, and the older you get, you're like, dang, I didn't know a damn thing, right? So that's kind of what happens. That's what that reminds me of. So let's see. Monica said, I'm thinking of getting a coach. I want to be a speaker in this person. I want to be a speaker and this person is doing things I want to do. Let's see. He said, I'm trying to build clients. I'm a therapist, trying to grow patient suggestions. Well, first thing is you got to, how do I say your name? Is it just Monique? It's spelled differently. All right. But first thing is you have to decide what you actually want to do, because being a coach, being a therapist and getting clients as a therapist, and being a keynote speaker, getting speaking gigs, 2 completely different daily activities. You have to pick one. You literally say just one. That's what you have to do. I know a lot of people think they're similar, and they think they're similar, but they're not. The daily activities are very, very different. And if you try to do both, you won't accomplish either one. It's literally like, imagine trying to be a therapist, get clients as a therapist versus getting speaking gigs. It's literally like basketball and football. Sure, they're both sports. They're both considered sports, but they require different activities. There's different type of practice with basketball, different type of practice with football, different types of practice. Same goes with you trying to get clients as a therapist and you trying to get business as a speaker. Just completely different. So first you got to decide which one you want to do. If you want to get clients as a therapist, this is going to depend on what type of therapist you are. So if you're like, let's say, so my sister's a music therapist, right? So like the way I would get clients if I were her is I would actually create a ton of videos in terms of singing around music. And then I would mention, so like So like in the morning I do boxing, right? So I go to the other room and I do boxing, and I have the echo thing, and I tell my echo to play Push It, like Push It by Rick Ross. It's like, push it to the limit, I'm pushing it, right? And so it's like in my mind, I'm boxing, I got this music going, it's like I'm pushing it. So every time I get tired, I hear the songs like Push It, right? And so I'm like, oh bam, so I go more, right? And so what I would do if I was my sisters, I would create videos like that. I'd be like, look at this guy doing boxing, and he's using music to help him actually endure more, right? And I create videos around that, and then I basically create a lot of content. So that's how I get clients that way. All right. But if it were a speaker, well, speakers, I already told speakers what to do, but that's what I would do there. Mental health therapy. So if that's what you do, something like that, I'd have to think about it more in terms of actually getting clients. So mental health therapy, I would hijack news stories like, Charlemagne the God. He is or was one of the DJs on one of these like popular DJ places, right? And so he wrote a book about his anxiety and all this stuff, depression, anxiety, and he talks a lot about mental health right now. So I would hijack his book by saying, oh, I read Charlemagne the God's book, here's what I think about it. And I'd start hijacking things like that. I would for sure hijack Donald Trump. No doubt about that, right? I'd be like, all right, let's check the mental health of Donald Trump. And so what I would do in your case is I would hijack very well-known names like Trump, Charlemagne the God. I'd hijack very well-known names, and I would post videos about it. Very similar to, let me see if I can find this actually. So it's on YouTube, and let's see, Real Doctor Reacts. There we go. So let me show you this. So if you go to YouTube and type in Real Doctor Reacts. So like here, he says Real Doctor Reacts to all this stuff, right? So let me see. All right, there we go. Real Doctor Reacts to Scrubs, the TV show Scrubs, or Real Doctor Reacts to the TV show House, or Real Doctor Reacts to Grey's Anatomy, or The Good Doctor, right? And so in those videos, I actually watched one of the videos, and what he does is he sees like the show House, he sees House do something like a tracheotomy or whatever, right? And he's like, they don't need to make that incision that large. And so he's reacting to it. I would do the same if I were you as a mental health therapist. I would literally look at people like Trump, Putin, whoever I can hijack. Well, probably not Putin because he'd probably freaking hack you and tear down your website and everything. But I'd hijack names and I'd say real mental health therapist reacts to Donald Trump or something like that, right? That's what I would do with all that. And then, of course, all the other small details like Facebook ads and all that sort of stuff in terms of building a list. But you got to understand that if you're trying to market yourself as a therapist, it's going to be very different than you marketing yourself as a speaker. Completely different. So you have to choose one of them. This is why I keep telling people, and it's probably why I'm going to split Speak and Lifestyle as well into completely different things where I'm not talking about building a personal brand, because building your personal brand and selling programs and marketing yourself like that, I'm telling you, requires completely different daily activities than getting hired as a keynote speaker. Getting hired as a keynote speaker, literally, all you do are two things. You have a bomb-ass website for one, and then two, you just do outreach. That's all. That's literally the only things you have to do. You don't need a book, don't need a podcast, don't need any content in any way. Like literally nothing. All you have to do is just have a bomb-ass website and just reach out to events, and you will just fill up your speaking calendar. Then it just comes down to details like how good is your website and how good is your outreach. And same goes with if you're building up your personal brand, that usually requires you to do things like how do you actually generate traffic? So how do you generate traffic to your landing pages? How do you create the content to get people to come back? The offers, like you're sending out emails in terms of the autoresponders, those types of things. So the daily activities are very, very different. All right. So let's see. Cool. Starts to focus. All right. Going to do speaking. All right. So Monique, if you're going to do speaking, you definitely want to join speakproacademy.com. There's no doubt about it that there isn't a single, literally nobody out there who will give you more detailed information than speakproacademy.com. Absolutely none. I don't care who it is, how well known they are. They will not give you more detail than I can possibly give you. They just can't. Just absolutely can't, literally. So you do want to join Speak Pro Academy. Once again, I just tell people, hey, you will succeed or fail with or without me. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. That's the only difference. Is it going to take 10 years or is it going to take 1 year? That's the only difference, right? All right. So any other final questions before we are done for today? Once again, Monday through Friday, we are doing the Facebook Lives Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So let's see. Let's see if there are any other final questions, anything that I missed here. Let's see. We got that. Got that. All right. Can't see anything on Instagram. All right. So any other final questions before we are done for today? Once again, I want to come back to remember the whole thing. When things don't work, you're trying to do something and it's not working, whether it's you doing Facebook Live, Instagram Live, you creating your podcast, you doing cold email, cold calling, webinars, whatever it is, whatever you're doing and it's not working is because you're not skilled enough to get it to work. Take 100% responsibility for why it's not working. Understand you are not skilled enough yet. Understand that business is a skill the same way chess is a skill, poker, computer engineering, all that stuff. It's all a skill. We understand it takes a doctor 10 years to become a doctor. It takes them 10 years to become a doctor. We get that. But in business, you need to get that as well. You need to understand how long it's going to take, how hard it's going to be, and understand it is a skill. If it's not working, take responsibility for it. Get skilled. Skill up. All right. So let's see. Sherry said it's true. Been to others and Benji's the best. Yeah, it is true. I will hands down put my program against anyone. I don't care if it's Tony Robbins. I'm like, he doesn't know how to do outreach. He knows how to fill up stadiums. That's what he's great at. He knows how to fill up stadiums. But I will put my program against anybody because it's what I did my entire life. All I did was reach out. That's literally all I did. And so if you're trying to get gigs based on referrals, podcasts, all that, I'm telling you it's not going to work. I'm just saying. So, all right. If you guys want help just marketing yourself, just let me know. And once again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I'll see you guys Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks everybody for showing up. Let's see. Bill said I did Les Brown's training and yours is better. Yeah, Les Brown, he's a great speaker, But once again, what happens is these guys who are really well known, they're great speakers. I'll give them that. Like Les, Maxwell, all these, they're great speakers. But they didn't have to reach out to events to get hired. The way they built their business was basically through luck. No, I don't even want to say luck. I'll give them credit because once again, they're great at what they do, right? But they didn't. All right, so it is kind of luck in a way, like Tony Robbins, right? The way Tony Robbins built his business was he was just doing a small seminar, like everyone watching this, doing a small seminar at like a Holiday Inn or something. It just so happens the guys from the Guthrie and Ranker place, they were there. They were like, this would be a great speaker that we can promote. So they just plucked Tony Robbins out of the Holiday Inn, said, hey, we're going to create an infomercial. We're going to put up all the money. You're just going to be the guy in the video selling the program. You're going to be the guy in the video. We're going to put up all the money to create the infomercial. We get 93% profits. You get 7% profits. And that's that. That's literally how Tony Robbins built his business. He did not build his business by reaching out to events and all that stuff. I mean, of course, they did cold calling eventually, but that's literally what happened with them. The same goes with a lot of these guys where if someone were to, let's say someone were to approach you and they were to say, hey, we're just going to give you all this business, right? We're just going to give you all sorts of business. Sure, you're going to be rich as all hell. You're going to be like, oh, shoot, all right, I'm a millionaire overnight, right? You're going to be rich as all hell, but you won't be skilled. You won't know how to actually do it if you had to start over. And so that's why I keep telling people, like, it is hands down the best program out there. I don't care who else has a program, how well known they are. They can teach you what they're great at. Les Brown, great at presentation. I mean, the dude's one of the best speakers out there. Like, dude's a great storyteller, everything. But when it comes to getting on a stage, there is no possible way his stuff can be better than mine. Absolutely none. I don't care what speaker it is. There's no possible way. So, like I said, if you want help with your speaking business, go to speakproacademy.com, sign up, and like I said, it's inevitable that you'll get booked. It's inevitable you'll make money with that. If it's not, once again, it's your fault, not mine. Just got to stress that, your fault, not mine. All right. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I will see you guys Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks everybody for showing up. Take care, everybody.